Starting off in a mysterious town with a less than welcoming feel to it, the group finds themselves in quite an awkward position. Queefy Varg, the Dragonborn cleric, had been arrested and thrown in a jail cell for acting, shall we say, indecent in public. In the jail cell, he was not alone, but had been traveling with his friend Pearl Baggins, who, at the time, was trying to get his next fix of his favorite recreational powder. Inside the jail cell, he sat face to face with two strangers who he would soon become very close friends with. The first person was none other than Thivriel Brewbringer, the dwarven fighter, known across the lands partially for bearing the famous Brewbringer name, but more commonly known for being a drunkard. Picking fights with anyone foolish enough to attempt and take him on, it was his irrational and careless acts that eventually led to his untimely death. The second stranger, the wood elf known as Axorixis, had the look of someone you would be hesitant to trust, and rightfully so. Raised by a group of thieves, Axorixis was taught to steal what he needed and do whatever it takes to get by. His carelessness, as well as many additional factors, unfortunately led to his untimely death as well. After escaping the jail cell, the party exits the doorway into an eerily quiet and desolate town. They are greeted by a strange and mysterious individual who introduces himself as an elemental wizard known as Callus. He informs them of a terrible threat that has recently shown its menacing presence in the nation of Enderboar. After explaining to them about what has been going on, he believes these brave adventurers may be able to help fight this terrible threat. Callus imparts his wisdom on the group and emblazons them all with the mark of a lightning bolt on each of their foreheads, assuring them it will help them along their journey. After Callus tests both the mental and physical integrity of the group, he deems them worthy of continuing on and learning the whole truth. He indulges them, saying that he is the elemental wizard of fire, making him one of the 5 elemental wizards that rule over the nation of Enderboar. His brother, Callum, the elemental wizard of water who resides in the city of Brimlad to the west, is who he believes to be in grave danger. Along with Callum, there is the elemental wizard of metal and earth, known as Pharos. The other 2 are the elemental wizards of nature and air, who have gone to great lengths to keep as much personal information about themselves private and unknown to any commoners. After this, he reveals the most sinister of all details, the evil telemancer known as Elazar. Callus believes that this evil being has taken control of his dear brother, and he fears this is only just the beginning. Hearing about the threat of the telemancer Elazar, and how he is beginning to show himself in the city of Brimlad, the group agrees to help save the glorious nation of Enderboar. Callus thanks them and lets them know that although this is a tremendous evil they are dealing with, he fears it is nothing compared to what he believes may be lurking in the shadows, playing a much more dangerous game. The party begins traveling towards the west, encountering situations at each and every turn that continue to test them. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, it is during these travels that the untimely death of Axorixis and Thivriel Brewbringer occur. Although the group is saddened, they continue on, meeting up with 2 new adventurers along the way. First, they encounter the half-orc paladin known as Smork Swirmp. Smork Swirmp is a strong and noble warrior who will do the right thing no matter what, and has always been known for being a leader. While exploring the dark and foreboding forest, they encounter Omen Blackbark, the Tiefling Druid. Omen Blackbark was in these woods meditating, attempting to become closer to nature and assimilate himself with the natural feeling of the forest. As the group stumbles through the dark and labyrinthian forest, now strengthened in numbers, they encounter many strange things. It appears as if what Callus has said may be true, considering what happens to these brave adventurers during their time in the forest, at least. While investigating the dark woods, they stumble upon a strange lake, with an even stranger stone pool positioned in the center. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. Still in the dark woods, they hear a loud rumble and a sound of crackling lightning in the distance. The trees hanging over their heads mysteriously begin to part, revealing the sky to the party for the first time since entering the forest. The group notices something very large begin to form in the sky above them to the west. A portal begins to open, the weather intensifies, and a deafening boom is heard coming from the portal. This terrible sound shakes all the trees around them, and then immediately afterwards, it becomes silent. The storm subsides and the trees shift back to their original positions, restoring the dark and treacherous feeling back to the forest. This encounter makes the group weary of what's to come, but they continue on anyways, eventually reaching the exit of the forest. It is at the exit they meet the wizard Vidarius, the friendly and kind-hearted elemental wizard of nature. Vidarius asks the group to follow him, and he demonstrates his incredible power by taking down a large barbarian outpost single-handedly in order to rescue one of his children, a feat that surely would have been a great challenge for even all the adventurers working together. At this point, the group realizes Vidarius is someone they may want to keep as a close ally. Vidarius imparts what he knows regarding the events transpiring in Enderboar and sends the group on their way westward until they reach the city of Stone River. In the city of Stone River, they met some interesting townfolk and some even more interesting shop owners before continuing west. After several hours of travel, they are met with somewhat of a roadblock. Standing in their path is a giant lake with a single island in the middle. They construct a raft, and Queefy Varg along with Pearl Baggins are the first to row across to this strangely placed island in the center of the lake. The two of them investigate the landmass carefully, and right away they notice the hundreds of ant hills and thousands of ants inhabiting the island. In the center of the island is a large stone statue of, you guessed it, an ant. Queefy investigates the statue cautiously, being careful not to touch or interact with it. Pearl Baggins, on the other hand, chooses the opposite route and decides to jump directly on the statue. The second his feet touch the stone, he begins to shrink down in size until he is no larger than a tiny ant. Queefy Varg carefully scoops him up, puts him in a vial, and transports Pearl back across the water to inform the rest of the party what just happened. Realizing they must find a way to return Pearl back to normal size, they return to the town of Stone River to do some research. Eventually, they learn of a secret that may be exactly what they need. Deep within the ant colony on the island to the west, legend has it that there is a pool of water that may possess the ability to return a creature that has been shrunk back to his original size. It sounds terrifying, and perhaps even a little bit risky, but it may be the only way to save their companions, so they prepare themselves to make their way through the ant tunnels by whatever means necessary. They make their way back to the island of the ants, take a deep breath, and touch the statue which transforms them all down to the size of ants. Slowly and carefully, they explore further and further into the tunnels until they finally reach the room where the king and queen ant reside. Seeming friendly at first, the king and queen ant gives the group a task to help the colony. In return, they promise the party access to the Fountain of Restoration, which will return them to normal size. They accept with little to no hesitation, almost seem too good to be true, and then begin to leave the ants' throne room. Soon after their departure and acceptance of this task, the king and queen ants' demeanor shifts drastically as they both begin viciously killing members of their own colony. Each messenger sent into the back room was met with the same fate, a gruesome and shocking death by their own once-beloved king and queen. Springing into action, a group gets ready to fight. They go in, sneaking as carefully as they can so as to get the upper hand on the first attack and not alert them to their presence. When the time is right, they strike. After a fierce and unexpected battle, the group emerges victorious in defeating the king and queen ant. During the fight, however, one of the 4 ants standing guard outside the entrance to the throne room was able to scurry off to tell the others what was happening. Unfortunately for the party, their actions were not seen as quite as righteous as they thought by most of the remaining colony. From what the guard ant told them, the colony believed these adventurers mercilessly slaughtered their leaders for no reason. The guard ant began rallying the colony to work at full speed in an effort to block them into the back room so they couldn't escape. Feeling trapped, And as if they were staring death in the face, the group had an idea. They would use the carcass of the king and queen ant as a Trojan horse, hiding inside the body in an attempt to convince the colony that they were in fact not dead, but very much so alive. Seeing it as the most viable option, the party divides and crawls into the remains of the two large ant bodies. Carefully, and with as much confidence as possible, they begin to carry out their plan and ascend back up and out of the ant tunnels without their cover being blown. They trick the first group of guards who are standing outside the now blocked exit with relative ease, allowing them to attempt continuing further and ascending upwards. With their increased confidence, they trick the second set of guards with no problem, leaving only one more group of guards standing in their way from a clean escape. Ascending from the second floor to the first and final floor, they are met with the final pact of guards. Instantly, the guards see through their ruse and begin calling them out, causing a commotion that very quickly led to the entire colony converging towards them, ready to attack and kill the Kingslayers. In a panic, the entire group decides to drink the potions they obtained early in the throne room to return them to normal size, even though they had no idea just how far underground they currently were. Luckily for them, being so close to the surface allowed them to escape mostly unharmed. That is except for poor Smork Swermp, whose arm was broken in half due to the extreme pressure and winding nature of the ant tunnels. They finally escape, and after making a conscious decision to leave Pearl Baggins the size of an ant, they begin heading back to town right away to see what can be done about Smork's arm. They rush him to the infirmary, where they are informed that Smork's injury can be fixed, but it will require some time. Relieved, Omen decides to stay and keep his friend company while his broken arm gets tended to. Meanwhile, while Omen is keeping Smork company in the infirmary, Queefy Varg decides to go to the church to pay an old friend a visit. Queefy is in search of an old lady who had previously robbed Pearl Baggins of all his gold. He finds the lady, approaches her, and tells her that Pearl has not been acting quite as nobly as he wants everyone to believe. Queefy pulls out the vial which still contains the tiny ant-sized Pearl Baggins and hands it to the old lady. He explains that he's hopeful she would be able to, maybe, teach Pearl a lesson and show him it's not okay to act as he has been. The lady accepts this graciously and says she will force him to clean her entire house with a toothbrush to whip him into shape. Queefy thanks the lady and continues on his way. Now, this leads us to where we last left off. Smork stays his final night at the infirmary, ready to leave the following day. Omen returns to the inn, meeting up with Queefy Varg. The both of them agree that after everything they have been through today, they deserve a comfortable bite to eat and a good night's sleep. A couple hours pass. Omen, Blackbark, and Queefy Varg are sleeping restfully in their bed. Then, out of nowhere, they are quickly awoken from their slumber as they feel several people grapple them. Before they're able to even make a move, the kidnappers make sure they are unable to scream by stuffing gags in their mouth. With bags over their head and an unknown number of people taking them to God knows where, Queefy and Omen are stricken with fear as they wonder, what is going to happen to them? And that, my friends, is what we are going to find out today.
So in this case, your sins will be paid for next week.
Oh my god.
What the fuck is he on about?
Alright.
That's like some Boondock Saints shit. Like,